Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Lacy Frazer here with Whole Soul School and Foundations Transformation Talks for the month of June. And I am here with my dear friend Kevin Foster to talk about creative visualization and manifestation. So Kevin, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a
Awesome.
beautiful day here in Atlanta.
Awesome. Well, it's a beautiful day here in North Carolina, and I love that we are sharing this morning together.
Likewise.
And I really appreciate you agreeing to chat with me today about a very important topic. I think, we spent the month of May at Whole Soul School and Foundation talking about energy and how energy plays such a big role in manifesting. And this month we want to really get focused on the method of creative visualization, because we know a lot about energy and its electrical and magnetic properties and how it brings things to us. But really what comes before all of that is thought, right? And ideas and things that we visualize that we bring into form. So we kind of talked about the mechanics last month about bringing things into form with respect to energy and the impact energy has in the body and outside the body. And this month we're talking about really the process of creative visualization. So I'd love you to introduce yourself, and then let's talk about this a little bit, because I know it's a topic that's really, really important to you.
It really is. I grew up in the Detroit area, and I'm living in Atlanta now. Been pretty much all over the world, and had a great opportunity to see a wide number of people, which has increased my worldview, which I am very, very grateful for. Currently, I'm a speaker. I speak nationally on the subject of ethics. Particularly, I speak about how small unethical slips can have devastating consequences. And I speak from experience. I was once a corporate executive. Our company came under criminal scrutiny, and I ended up pleading guilty to a crime. And I'm out there now talking to people about how close they are to criminal liability, how close they are to going to prison. I spent 37 months in a federal prison and taking it to the streets now, warning other people. So
wow, that is fantastic work, and what an amazing thing to be able to bring the messages to the people and help teach people how to avoid the pitfalls and avoid what you went through.
It really is. Yeah. I'm very blessed to be able to have that opportunity and get that feedback from other people.
Yes, wonderful. Well, I also know, I remember when you and I met, that you had a long history of practicing transcendental meditation. And I would imagine that somehow is going to link to our discussion about creative visualization.
That is very true. I actually got introduced to New Age thought when I was a teenager. So this would have been the early 70s, maybe even starting in the very late 60s. And by the time I went to college in 1974, I went a very long way away from college and away from my large Irish Catholic family. I'm the oldest of 9, so our family was really tight. And went to Mobile, Alabama, which might as well have been a foreign country back then.
Right.
And very early on, that freshman year, the first month I was on campus, saw a little sign up in the student union, lessons for transcendental meditation. And by this time, I had already heard the Beatles were doing it. So by the time I went to college, I had pretty much been introduced to transcendental meditation just in my awareness. So probably in August, I wasn't even on campus for more than 2 weeks. I saw a little poster in the student union say, come here and learn about transcendental meditation. It was like $20, which was, probably a month's worth of beer money to me at that time. But I decided to get into it. And that introduced me to meditation in August 1974. So that's 45 years ago, and I've been practicing it ever since.
Wow.
And over time, I started learning that I could literally close my eyes and immediately get into a meditative state. And from there, I started practicing creative visualization within that meditative state. And that has served me well over 45 years.
Wow. Wow. We'll talk a little bit about that process of creative visualization sort of within the meditation. How did that work for you?
It always worked great because once you're in that meditative state, then your mind is so much more open to possibilities. In TM, and I'm sure it's the same with other meditative practices, you're still going to have these thoughts that come to the forefront of your mind, and you're not really trying to suppress them. You kind of acknowledge them and then just let them float by, and then another one comes, you let it float by. But within that point in time, if you can start visualizing something that you want in your particular life, then it's able to get deep into the recesses of your mind and also your energy field, something you've gotten through, you've discussed this past month. But for me, TM has always been very important to my creative visualization, as well as simple things as all my positive affirmations and other things. For years and years and years, I would have a spiral notebook where I recorded things that went on with my day. But every morning, I would kind of write in the upper right-hand corner of that notebook what I was trying to create. Just little things, whether it was a new car, whether it was my country club membership, whether it was a new home, a certain amount of money, certain amount of projects that I had. And, during the course of the day, I would kind of glance and over towards those little notes and say, oh yeah, I need to think about it. And it became part of my mind, and I would spend just seconds visualizing it throughout the day.
Well, and it certainly seems like it absolutely worked for you, because when you look at your external world, especially before you went into prison, I know you've talked about really having manifested pretty much everything you've ever wanted, and the life you wanted.
That's right. That's very, very true. Essentially, where I really probably learned the most was that creative visualization can bring about all those positive things, but it could also bring negative things as well if you let those stinking thinking thoughts into your mind. And that became very evident to me, not necessarily initially through my own experiences, but through other experiences. I started noticing that people that continually talked about how sick they were always sick. People who talked about how poor they were, nothing ever went right in their life, nothing ever went right in their life. People who couldn't keep a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that's what they talked about. They couldn't keep a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It seemed to be a recurrent pattern for people to be able to bring up what they were continuing to think about. And what you think about is typically what you're also visualizing about. Thoughts, become things, and the more that you think, more those thoughts become beliefs, and more they become beliefs, then the more you visualize those beliefs. And I started noticing that, and I just couldn't believe it.
Well,
And
Exactly. I mean, I think it is so powerful, and I know I talked about this last month, but when we can really get our minds and our hearts around the power of our thoughts and understand that it is our thoughts that are creating our reality, then why doesn't every single person start changing their thoughts to create a different reality, especially if they are suffering or they find challenge in their life, you know? So I always wonder, you know, as I
See, I think a lot of people just do not believe it. I don't think that they believe that they have the power to create their own life. I think that a lot of people think that they are victims of circumstances of other people in their lives, um, you know, their social economic status, whatever it is. It seems like, to a large extent, people get more comfort out of being victims than they do
yes.
in empowering their own selves, their own thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, we talked about that a lot in May. And what I think would be important here, because we're talking about creative visualization, let's just break that down for a minute here for people. I know we talked about creative visualization on our first fireside chat this month, and I've written a blog about it. And so this is a continuation of that. But as a reminder, really the difference between creative visualization and meditation in my mind is meditation is about quieting the mind. It's sort of clearing the mind. It's getting into a space of no time. It's getting into a space where you're sort of um, there are no other thoughts coming in. You're just doing your best to get clear and empty and open for the energy of the divine to flow through you, or whatever needs to come, it will come when you get quiet. And creative visualization, I feel, is a little bit more of an active process where we are concentrating on an idea. We are using our imagination to actually live the experience in our mind that we are wanting to create in our reality. So one of my favorite examples of this is the people who I mean, creative visualization is used with professional athletes. It was used and probably still is with NASA and the space program. You know, you get people to visualize the action before it happens. So the athlete is imagining the touchdown before it happens. The basketball player is scoring the three-pointer to win the game before it even happens. And in a way, you're tricking your brain to believe that it's already happened. And that energy pulls that experience into your life. And so
Right.
creative visualization, and you may please chime in on this, but I sort of see it as a little bit more of an active process than even just meditation.
I agree with you 100%. Meditation is that quieting, the centering of the mind. And once you are centered, it's a lot easier to keep all those other thoughts out of that thought process of the creative visualization. Let me give you a couple of examples. You brought up sports as well. I used to play golf 2 to 3 times a week. I was a decent golfer. I wasn't a great golfer, but I was a decent golfer. And before I had a big golf match, I would go into my meditative state and within 20 minutes visualize all the holes that I knew I was going to be able to play, but I would do that within the meditative state. But I was creating those shots right up the center of the fairway. There was one occasion that I mentioned to you when we were chatting in our pre-talk on this, how I was playing golf with a priest friend of mine, and the night before, I had read a book called Golf in the Kingdom by Michael Murphy, which is kind of a famous book written far before its time. I think it was written in the early 1970s about an American who goes over to Scotland on his way to England, and he's playing golf in the middle of the night, and his host there starts teaching him how to visualize his golf shot to a blind hole. And when I went up to a blind hole the day after reading that, I'm standing out there on the tee and I'm looking at it, and all I could see is a pin. And I actively visualized my ball coming off my golf club, the flight landed on the green, and I could not see the hole. I took that shot, went up to the green, no ball. And my buddy and I were looking all around. He goes, "Kevin, why don't you go ahead and look in the hole?" And sure enough, it was in the hole.
No,
Yeah,
wow.
and that was the only hole-in-one I've ever got in my life. I
Right.
read about it the night before. I had a quick visualization when I woke up in the morning about it. I stood on the tee, actively visualized the path of the ball, of the flight, the angle, everything on the ball, jumping onto the green and rolling into the hole. And even though I was not able to see that last part, that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
Yep.
That is
So,
a,
and
yep.
I have a lot of other instances in golf as well. And sometimes those things are bad too. I had one guy says, "Oh, you're going to put that ball into that lake over there." The guy was an idiot. And sure enough, I shanked it into the lake, just interrupted that flow of the mind.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
it works good times and sometimes it works bad times.
Yes.
But in
Well,
sports, I mean, I think most sports psychologists are teaching creative visualization now.
yeah, I think so. And I think also the movement, there is a movement, sort of this blending of science and spirituality, and the ideas behind quantum physics, like we talked about last month, are also supporting the power of the mind, the subconscious mind, and creative visualization. I mean, none of this is new information. I mean,
Right,
people have written about this for hundreds of years. Some of the greats wrote about it in the late 1800s. Uh,
right.
but I think people are starting to pay attention to their thoughts, and they're starting to open to viewing themselves as a powerful creator. And that's all, that's a lot of why we created Whole Soul School and Foundation. And Whole Soul School and Foundation is an example of creative visualization. Marie and I have visualized some kind of center to create content, free content, that people could access, free wisdom and knowledge, and um, all of this. And what we always thought it would be a physical center. That's always what we visualized, and it may still be a physical center, but for now we're walking through the online center, where we can have these conversations, and we can share this information, and we can give people the tools, the soul skills, to
Yeah.
create a new reality for themselves. And the concept of creative visualization is one of those, I think, very, very important tools. Um, this month we are also our movie for the month that we're going to recommend people watch is a movie called Thoughts Become Things by Mike Dooley.
Mike
And
Dooley, yep.
yep, and I know you know that film, and I know you know Mike Dooley. So
Yes.
but he does a really good job in that film of outlining the steps to visualizing.
Right.
And
And I mean, you are doing such great work. You're such a talented coach and teacher. I mean, I've really appreciated all your advice and guidance,
oh,
over the years. It's just been fabulous what we've been able to do together. And I mean, it's really you, but I mean, it's just been just phenomenal. There's one other thing that I want to kind of interject with you right
yeah,
there.
sure.
Um, Belief is very important. You could, I think that all the things that you visualize are not going to happen unless there's a belief that that what you're doing is actually creative visualization. I mean, I think it's easy for us to think about, getting a new car or having a certain love interest in their life or whatever. Thinking is not necessarily creative visualization. There has to be a belief factor in there as well. And what the great teachers like Mike Dooley and Abraham, and even with the Secret, it's part of that belief that it already exists in your
Yes.
in your life.
Yes.
And all you have to do is just kind of touch it out and bring it in with that creative visualization.
Yes. Well, and you absolutely were on the same wavelength, and of course, no surprise there. I was just about to segue into sort of the steps of how this works. We've done a little bit of an overview of what creative visualization is, but you bring up a very important point. We're not going to bring anything into our reality using our mind if we are not in a state of belief that we can. And that belief has is energy. It has energy. It's electrical and magnetic. And it is also generates a feeling, right? A feeling state. So
Right.
when we think about wanting to manifest something positive in our life, we need to be able to get into the feeling state that we already have it, right? That it's already there, that we need to get into the feeling state of being present, having it already with us or around us or whatever. I'm not articulating it well, but
Right.
I know Abraham Hicks talks about ask, believe, receive, and that's the process. And I know Shakti Gawain, who wrote a great book called Creative Visualization, talks about desire, belief, and acceptance. But these stages are all the same. The first thing we want to do is we want to have a true desire to create something different in our life, whatever that is. And then we have to spend some time really visualizing every aspect of what that is and how it impacts our life as if we've already got it, and really believe that, whether it's that we believe we deserve it or we believe it's going to be such a positive force in our life. And then we also are willing to accept that it's coming or that it's already here. I have a great example. My own personal example is even the house that I live in. Marie and I found this house. It was not on the market at the time, but we just fell in love with it from the outside. And we would sit in the driveway and we would look at this house and we would talk about raising kids in this house, and we would visualize where the swing set would go. And we would talk about, the kids climbing the rocks, and we could see it all in our mind's eye. And as we came down month after month and visualized that this was the house that we wanted to move into, true story, it eventually came on the market.
Yeah.
And when it came on the market, we then visualized that we had the finances to make it happen. And, one thing led to another, and we've been in the house for 15 years now. So it's creative visualization is very, very powerful thing, but you bring up a really, really good point about belief.
Right. And also, I want to add another little thing to that too. What I've also discovered is being in a state of gratitude, of love, of appreciation, of peace, and of harmony, opens you up to the energy that you need in order to be able to accept. If you are in a state where you hate yourself, for example, or you hate the world, then there's so much resistance in that energy. You cannot receive anything of a higher vibration, money, cars, love interest, so on and so forth, because your energy is not allowing it to come in. And,
Right.
and I know you already covered much of this, but I just want to be able to bring it up as far as part of the power of creative visualization is being able to get into that energy of acceptance. Means that you have to be in a higher vibrational state in order to be able to bring it in. Does that make sense to you?
Totally. And I think the word resistance is really key, because if you, it's really a state of being open, and knowing that there is infinite possibility. And that is a key ingredient here. You have
Yeah.
to be open. When we're in resistance to something, when we're thinking we can't have it, or we don't deserve it, or we're not enough, or we can never have that, or I'll never achieve that, these are just thoughts that we tell ourselves that have an energy that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because the
Right.
energy goes out, and it makes it true. I mean, the universe listens to what we think about.
Right.
So, but when we have the energy, when we are in a state of gratitude, when we are in a state of love, when we are in a state of appreciation, when we are in a state of compassion, our energy field is pulling to it more things to be grateful for, more things to love, more things that are an energetic match to that energy that we're putting out. And creative
Right.
visualization really works the same way. We want to be in a state of openness, of clarity, of knowing what we want, believing it to be true, believing it to be real. And quantum physics says it has to come. It has to come. And it's really what we're talking so much about, is the power of the mind, and the power of the mind to create a different life, a new way. And we have to say, we can't say that without also saying the power of the mind can also create hardship and challenge and other
Yep.
things that that we may not want in our life.
Right. I'll tell you one thing that I think is really valuable on Thoughts Become Things, Mike Dooley's movie, and if you listen to Mike Dooley or read his other books, the same thing comes up, is not worrying about how these things will occur. Your job is not to worry about how or what you need to do. There is a certain trust that the universe is coming together, and all these different forces are going to come together to make it happen for you. And I think with in our modern society, where we're being taught at a very early age that you have to plow through, you have to do this, you have to do that. Everything you do, you're not going to get anything done unless you do it, unless you do it. Well, that's really not true. Our job is to visualize, be able to get in this higher state, like you just described, in this higher vibration, and go through the process of desire, ask, acceptance, and part of that is belief, not worrying about how. There are so many times in my life where I would say, "Wow, this is how something's going to happen for me," and then that got tripped up, or that went away, and then that got me like really upset, and then I got depressed. All this stuff doesn't work, and then I would get back into it again, and it was the totally unexpected things that have happened in my life that I had visualized, like, wow, it happened.
Right.
All of a sudden I woke up and I looked around and said, wow, I have the exact life that I visualized. And I've seen that where I pulled out my old notebooks and opened up those old notebooks and saw what my goals were from, a year, 2 or 3 years ago, when I'm trying to find, a note, because I kind of use my diary, a note. And I opened up and said, oh man, I manifested all that stuff. I
Wow.
didn't even realize it because I kept on asking for more and more stuff. And I had forgotten about the stuff I had asked about a year or 2 years ago, and it's already in my life. It's incredible.
Yeah, incredible. It's really a magical process in some ways. And I think you bring up a really good point. You know, you talked about belief, which is super important. And the other piece is the how, and not worrying about the how. And I love how Mike Dooley talks about that. He says, you know,
Yeah.
he calls them the cursed hows. And he says, you can't worry about the how. I think where human beings get really stuck is they create a visual, they create a visual of what they think they want in their life, and they can imagine it, and they're really good at imagining it, but then they start to worry about, well, how am I going to make that happen?
Hmm.
And the truth is when we're worried about how we're going to make something happen, we're likely in an ego state. We are going to push through. We have an agenda. We're gonna make something happen. We're gonna barrel through it. And you know, I've learned this part the hard way, because I tend to be very self-directed and very driven in a lot of ways. And I'm gonna make whatever I want to happen happen. And inevitably, when I try to do that, it fails. But when I let go and I trust the universal forces, and I trust and I know about quantum physics, and I know that my energy is conspiring with universal energies through this creative visualization process, I know that what I desire is already here. It just needs to come into form.
That's right.
And so if we were to kind of just break this down into an easy 3-step process for people, we're really talking about the concept of, first, you need to have an idea or thought about something that you want to create in your life. Now, that could be a material object, that could be a relationship, that could be a higher vibrational feeling.
Hmm.
And once you have created that idea or thought in your mind, then it's time to spend some time meditating on it, on creating the mental picture that you already have it, and really feeling the feeling inside of you in that moment of what it's like having it, right? Believing that it is yours, that it already is, and then trusting that the universe is working with you to make it happen,
Yeah.
and surrendering to that.
Exactly.
And so there we have it. I
You
think,
summed it up great. You
well,
summed it up so well.
well, thank you. And I think you really helped me sort of formulate the sum up. But I know we both have a lot of different stories about where this has worked in our life. And it's very, very powerful. It's a very powerful tool for people to adopt. And I think one of the final things I want to say about it is, you don't have to spend an hour in meditation visualizing something. You can, and you brought it up a couple times, you can spend seconds, you can
Yep.
spend minutes, but all it takes is giving some mental energy and some attention, you know, 5 to 10 minutes a day at minimum, probably, and every day. And you just keep that mental focus. But you don't have to spend an hour or 2 hours or 3 times a day really trying to force something. You just have to pay attention a little bit, for a little bit of time.
That's right. Well, scientists say that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a lot. So, certainly a portion of those thoughts can be designed in order to create the life that you're looking for later on that day or tomorrow. The existence of your life, how you're living your life, and what you have in your life today is the child of the thoughts that you had yesterday, last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. The life you created today is a result of what you thought about previously. And so your thoughts today are going to be the parents of the life that you're creating in the future.
Yes. So we're creating our future in every minute of every day.
Right.
And imagine the whole human race got on board with this.
Right.
Imagine if
Right.
everybody really understood this
Right.
and practiced it.
Right.
Imagine the joy and the fun and the just amazingness that we would all feel walking through the world.
Well, can you imagine if everybody appreciated
Yeah,
what they had in their own life today
yeah,
and got away from the victimhood that is so prevalent in our society now?
right.
I mean,
And,
it'd be huge.
and got away from the lack thinking. I
Yeah,
don't have enough. I
exactly.
don't have enough. I don't have enough.
Right. Right. Yeah. People don't realize how good they have it. They really don't.
Yeah, they
And
don't.
they have something to compare it to, you
Right,
know?
right.
So
Well, Kevin, I know this is a topic that we could talk about in a much larger scale, in a much larger scope.
I mean, I could
And
sit here and talk about this all day.
I know, and
And I am so appreciative that you asked me to talk on this topic because this
yeah.
is it's near and dear to my heart. That's for sure.
Well, it of course, as the universe would have it, our connection and our paths
Right.
crossed at the right time, and this was a natural intruding point for you to come into Whole Soul and talk about this month's theme. And so I'm just very grateful about that. And these transformation talk interviews are, they're just the tip of the iceberg. They're just to wet the whistle for some people out there. And it is in my vision that we will at some point either have a physical center where we run classes and workshops and groups and things like that. But for now, that center will remain a online virtual center. And I hope that we are going to create a membership site where we can have much deeper and more broader conversations about these topics. Because I'll tell you, Kevin, I feel like my whole life is about these teachings and about living a different way and about sharing everything that I've learned that has changed my life. I want to share with other people. And that is a big part of why Whole Soul School and Foundation was created. It's why, I created the program that I did while I was working in the prison system and was able to share it with the men in the prison. And I'm continuing on, and I feel like I want to be living my life purpose, and it brings me such joy to have these conversations, and a little bit of frustration that we don't have hours to talk about it right now, but not really. I mean, this is just hopefully the people who listen to this and watch this will say, geez, I want to know more about that. Geez, I like that guy. I want to talk to him more about that. I want to follow Dr. Frazer's work, and I want to follow Whole Soul School and Foundation, and I want to support Whole Soul School and Foundation. So
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I got so much out of your program when I was in prison. I am just so appreciative that I was one of 16 guys in the year that I took the program, and it's made you have made such a huge difference in my life. And my life, to a large degree, is a product of all that coaching and group work and individual work that we did through those years. And I'm just really appreciative. I mean, I'm just really super, super grateful to you. And now to Marie, I'm glad that you were able to share so generously with us back then, and you're able to share with the public now who are come out to your site. And it's powerful, 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 powerful stuff.
Well, thank you so much. And it's been, I said it before, but it was truly my honor and my blessing to be able to work with you and the men in the prison. Who would have thought that we could have brought this work into that environment? But we did, and you all. And what's amazing is I'm not the only one that's just bringing this out into the world now. You all are too. You are out on the speaking tour talking about ethics, and a lot of what you talk about with respect to ethics is directly related to what you have created and manifested in your life, what you created and manifested, what you lost, and now
Right.
how you're building it back. So,
Right.
so thank you, Kevin, so much for being with me today. The dogs are about to start barking.
Yeah.
So
That's
I will sign off, but thank you
right.
so much, and I have a wonderful day, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right. Take care. All
Bye.
right. Bye.